Hello, everyone. Today, we're diving into a fascinating and sometimes tricky area of English grammar, verbals. So, what is a verbal? Let's start with a simple definition. A verbal is a word that is derived from a verb, but it does not function as the main action verb in the sentence. Instead, it acts as a different part of speech, specifically, as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Think of it as a verb putting on a costume to play a different role. It still looks like a verb and might imply an action, but its job in the sentence has changed. Now, let's have a look at the key distinction between verbals and verbs. The key is the function. Verbs function as the main verbs, stating the main action or state of being. And they show tense, number, or person. Or, let's say, they change form as per tense, number, or person. On the contrary, verbals do not function as the main verbs. They are derived from verbs but function as other parts of speech, nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. And they do not show tense, number, or person. That is, they do not change form the change in tense, number, or person. To understand better, let's have a look at the examples. Look at sentence number 1, the gardener tills the plot. Here, the verb is tills that function as the main verb, describing the main action in the sentence. Now, let's look at sentence number 2. The gardener tills the plot to plant vegetables. Here, the verb is tills that function as the main verb, describing the main action in the sentence. Whereas, the verb form to plant is not the main verb. It functions as an adverb, telling why the gardener was digging. So, it is a verbal. Then, let's have a look at sentence number 3. The gardeners are tilling the plot to plant vegetables. Now, the verb has changed its form to are tilling with the change of tense to present continuous. But the verbal to plant does not change at all. Similarly, in sentence number 4, the verb has again changed its form to some tilling with the change in person to first person singular. Still, the verbal to plant does not change its form. This is the difference between verbs and verbals. Moving on, there are 3 types of verbals we need to know. Number 1. Gerunds. Number 2. Participles. Number 3. Infinitives. Gerunds are verb forms ending in ing that function as nouns. Participles are verb forms that function as adjectives to modify nouns. Infinitives are base verb forms that function as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. Now, let's look at each one of the verbals. First, gerunds. The gerund is probably the easiest to spot. It's a verb form that always ends in ing. And its function is always the same, it acts as a noun. Let's try to understand them better. As a noun, a gerund can be the subject of a sentence, the direct object of a verb, the object of a preposition, or a subject complement. Let's have an example each. Gerund as the subject of a sentence. In the sentence, farming requires dedication and patience. Farming is in ing form, and it is the subject of the sentence, the thing that does the requiring. And it functions as a noun. Gerund as direct object. In the sentence, the cooperative promotes growing organic vegetables. What does the cooperative promote? It promotes growing. So, growing is the direct object. And it functions as a noun. Gerund as the object of a preposition. In the sentence, we improved the soil by adding compost. Adding is the object of the preposition by. Gerund as subject complement. Look at the sentence, a challenging aspect of the job is weeding the large fields. Here, weeding renames the subject and acts as a complement to the subject. So, remember, ing word acting as a noun? That's a gerund. Next, participles. A participle is a verb form that functions as an adjective. Its job is to modify a noun or a pronoun. There are 2 types, present participles and past participles. First, let's look at present participles. Present participles end in ing, just like gerunds. But their function is different, they describe nouns. They act as adjectives. Look at example number 1, the thriving orchard produced a record harvest. The word thriving describes the noun orchard. What kind of orchard? A thriving one. Another example, we watched the spinning sprinkler. Here, the word spinning modifies the noun sprinkler. What kind of sprinkler? A spinning one. Now, let's look at past participles. Past participles often end in ed, d, t, en, or n. They can also be irregular, like written or sung. They function as adjectives to modify nouns or pronouns. They usually describe a completed action or a passive state. Look at the first example. The overgrown hedges needed a trim. Here, the word overgrown describes the state of the hedges. What kind of hedges? An overgrown one. Look at the another example. Harvested early, the tomatoes tasted bitter. In this sentence, the word harvested modifies the noun tomatoes. What kind of tomatoes? Tomatoes that are harvested early. So, a participle, whether present or past, always functions as an adjective. Finally, infinitives. An infinitive is the most versatile verbal. It is the base form of a verb, usually preceded by the words to, like to run, to see, to eat. When the word to is omitted, it is called a bare infinitive. Look at the following examples. In the first sentence, she helped him pack, the verb pack without to is called bare infinitive. In the second sentence, the farmer wanted to grow oranges, the verb form to grow is a to infinitive. Infinitives can function as a noun, an adjective, or an adverb. Infinitives as nouns. When infinitives function as nouns, they can serve as subjects, direct objects, or complete the action being observed. Subject, to plant the entire field takes all day. Here, the infinitives to plant acts as the subject of the sentence. Direct object, the gardener decided to prune the roses. In this example, the infinitive to prune is the thing that was decided. It receives the action of the verb decided. Completing action, in the sentence, we watched the bees pollinate the entire orchard, the bare infinitives pollinate completes what was watched. As an adjective, when infinitives function as adjectives, they modify nouns by describing purpose or result. In the sentence, they bought special equipment to maintain the vineyard, to maintain describes the noun equipment. What kind of equipment? Equipment to maintain the vineyard. In the sentence, a sudden frost made the tender seedlings wilt overnight, the bare infinitive wilt describes what the seedlings became as a result of the frost. Infinitives as adverbs. When infinitives function as adverbs, they modify verbs by explaining why or how an action is performed. Explaining reason. In the sentence, we use specialized techniques to improve crop yield. Why do we use the techniques? To improve the yield. So, it modifies the verb use. Modifying the verb. In the sentence, she helped the farmer check the fermentation process, the bare infinitive checker modifies the verb helped. Now, this brings us to a very important point of confusion. Gerunds versus participles. Both gerunds and present participles use the ing form. So, how can we tell them apart? The main difference is their grammatical function in a sentence, even though they both use the same ing verb form or present participle. Past participle is not confused with gerund as it does not end with ing. So, how do we tell gerund and present participle apart? The key is function. A gerund always acts as a noun. It names an activity or a thing. A participle always acts as an adjective. It describes a person, place, or thing. As such, gerunds play the role of subject, object, subject complement, etc., whereas participles modify nouns or pronouns. Let's compare. Look at this sentence: planting is hard work. What is planting doing here? It is the subject of the sentence. You could replace it with it. It is hard work. So, planting acts as a noun, and it is a gerund. Now, look at this sentence: the planting machine is efficient. What is planting doing here? It's describing the noun machine. What kind of machine? A planting machine. So, planting acts as an adjective here, and it is a participle. A great trick is to ask yourself, what is this ing word doing? If it names an activity you can substitute with it or something, it's a gerund, a noun. If it describes a noun, it's a participle. Let's solidify this with a quick summary table. Gerunds end with ing and they function as nouns. As in the example, where swimming names an activity. Present participles also end with ing, but they function as adjectives. As in the example, where a running describes the noun water. What kind of water? Running water. Past participles end with ed, sen, t, etc. apart from a few irregular ones, and they function as adjectives. As in the example, where a broken describes the noun window. What kind of window? Broken window. Infinities are root forms of the verbs, with or without to, and they function as nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. As in the example, the infinitive to learn is the subject and acts as a noun. To wrap up, the most crucial thing to remember about all verbals is this: while they come from verbs, they are not the main verb of the sentence. They are verb forms moonlighting as other parts of speech, nouns, adjectives, and adverbs. To understand verbals, first recognize the form. Identify whether the verbal ends in ing, ed, en, or n, or uses to plus base verb. Then determine the function. Ask if it is acting as a noun, adjective, or adverb in the sentence. Then, apply them accordingly. Mastering gerunds, participles, and infinitives will greatly enhance your understanding of sentence structure and make you a more precise writer and speaker. Thank you. And have a nice day.